Okay, thanks for inviting me to that curriculum meeting today and giving me permission to make a spreadsheet. I'm going to send you this spreadsheet, but I thought I'd send you a video just unpacking what I've done because it's pretty dense rather than me explaining it in person. Anyway, so the first thing I made is a teaching calcs tab. It's got all the calculations. So basically, what I did was I broke up the day structure Monday, Friday, Tuesday, Wednesday, which is separate, Thursday terms 1 and 4, and then also Thursday's term 2 and 3. And then broke each of the differences between each one of the periods, like, so for example, period 1 and period 2, 55 minutes, then chucked it up into this overall calculation table. Now, there's three calculation tables, yellow, blue, and green. The reason there's three is because blue and green are considering assembly, which we have as not related activities, assembly considered related activities, sorry, and yellow considered as not related activities. Now, that has come from the teaching handbook where it says permanent part-time teachers participate in necessary staff meetings and related activities. So that might be a point of contention, but I've run everything off the blue and green, which is considering it as a related activity. If it's teaching time, it will bring a higher number in anyway, that will affect things. So what I've done is I've taken this, I've done 40 times 28. That's our 1120 is our weekly, which then will double for fortnightly teaching time. I then calculated our teaching time each week, as you can see here, to figure out our average day. So 27 periods, I've counted the periods here on our PXP timetable. And that's our maximum, absolute maximum teaching time. I've then went and done that, and you can see that I've got red here, and that is because I've removed compared to red here. So assembly included, no assembly included, no assembly included, no assembly included, no assembly included. The reason there's a difference between term 1 and 4 and 2 and 3 is because of our grade sport requirements. Then what I have done is put these down into 21 periods, which is what our teachers teach, times the average of yellow, blue, and green, which is well, yellow's, I guess, just term 1, so I probably have to do one of these for term 3, but I sort of gave up on yellow there because I've considered assembly as a assembly not considered related activities. Assembly considered related activities. I've typed that wrong. Get rid of that not. So assembly considered related activities in both of these, so it's not part of teaching. And my logic for that is if we were all in the hall, then it's not actually teaching, you're just standing at the side supervising. Anyway, I digress. So term 1 and 4, term 2 and 3. So that gives us an average teaching time. In term 1 and 4, we are right on the award, like smack on perfect. Term 2 and 3, because that shorter day, we're a little bit under. So what I did was I got the average between the two, so I'm assuming someone's going to teach for 4 terms, and it is slightly between that 53.3 repeater and the 52.037, and that gives you an average. On my next tab, what I've created is what I call the Phat Finder tab. Basically, I've taken our curriculum in stage 4 and 6. I've worked one off the 52 point, these are clones of each other. One's off the 52.69, which is the average, rounding up that third decimal, of periods of terms 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the second one is off our bigger period length. Because I figure if someone was going to argue this, they would go, oh, we teach this much, and they'd calculate on term 1, and then so that's what it does. So you can see those 53 repeaters and the 52.69s. I've broken that into cycle, which is a fortnight, then a year, then I've divided it by 60 to get it to a year. Then I've chucked it into a stage. Now, I've deleted these sections because these things are only ever taught over stage either 4 or 5. They're either electives in stage 5 or music in stage 4, 7 to 10s for them. I've then pulled into the department requirements and the NESA requirements, and I've hyperlinked over here all the requirements you might need to know. So there's all the interim policy, which brings in the department stuff, and all the ACE stuff is essentially, I think it's ACE 303 and then ACE 406 through ACE 4010. So that basically covers all of them, but most of it's in here. So then I've brought that. Now I've done a Phat Finder calculation, which is basically the greatest. I've always chosen the greatest. So the department is always the greatest, and that's our governing body or whatever. I don't know what the term that fella used today, but that minus that, and that's finding our fat. So obviously A bigger number here will mean there's more fat or more opportunity for reduction. I've then copied this and done it down and copied it down and changed the period cycle for that greater period. Now what that does is that has less fat. Now the reason why I did the greatest period was if someone was to question this, they would go and then do a calculation and go, oh, well, actually we teach this many minutes. We teach 53 minutes, not 52.6. Therefore, you've actually cut too much off my faculty. So you could think of this as like an extreme or like an upper end or something if you wanted. But as you can see, it does swing this fat. But looking at it, it's about, 7 hours difference? It's like 6.9. So it's not going to really, depending on what subject it is, 6.9, you're looking at about 7, 4. So it doesn't like break the bank. But the point is it does swing it a little bit. Now what I've done here is something I've been playing with. I think the next step for this is making a new tab and looking at, I want to try and investigate potential other structures for days, and something I'm really interested in finding more about. I remember I don't actually know anything about any of this stuff, it's just experimenting, but something for all of this is tidying up this period length. Dealing with 53s and 52.69s is not fun. Imagine if all the periods were 1 hour. It would really tidy things up. Look at this Phat Finder over here now. So what I'm trying to say, if we down the line consider day structure restructures, if we change English, so 8 periods at 60, we could drop English to 7, and you'll watch this calculation over here. So English would have 7 60-minute periods and would still be over by 6. And you can basically change this up. HSIE can drop to 6, and it would still be over by 80. Could HSE drop to 5? Well, HSE would be flush if it went to 5. So this bottom table is more of an experiment for me just to muck around and see what would we need. This is like a backwards mapping table. So if we have to design a new day structure, it means we need to design a new curriculum, which means we need to know how many periods. So we have 54 now. We're not going to have 54 anymore. So what is the minimum amount of periods with my reverse Phat Finder to figure out? Obviously languages and stuff. So why I've highlighted these yellows is because if we dropped languages to 3 periods, it would give us 60 hours in the year, which would give us 100 hours in the state. Now we need 100 hours. I should highlight that yellow as well, and this yellow is out well. So we actually need 100 hours in the stage because that's the department requirements. So that would not, if we were going to do it so language and music is suggested to be in a single year. So we would have to boost that up to 6 periods, or 5 actually. 5 would give us 100 hours within the year. So if we wanted to run language in a single year, we would need 5 1-hour periods to meet that department requirement. Now that says a Phat Finder, but that's working off 2 hours. So we're going to change actually, there'll be no stage requirement, there'll be a year. So if we were to drop music and language into like language in year 7, music in year 8, or whatever it decided to be, there, and we were to change to a 1-hour period, we would need 5 periods. So that's just something I'm experimenting with for getting my head around for curriculum design. Anyway, I've snippy tooled all the main requirements there from both of those places, and I've also put all the links up there if you're interested in looking at them. But I think the next thing for me, I'm not going to do it tonight, but is probably going and looking at other school structures, which I can just get off their school website because every school has their timetable. So I'll just go on and, not their timetable, their bell times. So I'll go and do that and see where we end up. Anyway, I'll talk to you more about this later. How long did that video go for? 9 minutes. That's a bit longer than I expected.